Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see Naruto the Wingless Angel, the movie. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. So let's get into the video. Kurama, I am not happy right now. A small, young male voice spoke with clear irritation. This voice belonged to a young man who was visibly not happy. He was small, only appearing to be possibly 2 or 3 years old. He had sunny blonde hair that spiked up in all directions, something that would make somebody think of the sun while looking at his hair. He had sky blue eyes, but they were narrowed and twitching at the moment. He had tan peach skin, and his body, while young, was toned to a strange degree for his age. His face was rounded, and he had 3 whisker marks on each cheek. He also had his right arm wrapped up in bandages, with his other clothes hanging off his body. I am not happy with Naruto either. The being named Kurama spoke, and Naruto was sitting on top of Kurama's head. Kurama was a large fox-like being, with a humanoid torso and human-like hands. His fur was bright orange colored, and he had long ears pointed up. He was about 8 or 9 times the height of a normal human, and he had 9 long tails going behind him. His glowing red eyes burned with irritation, and they were surrounded by black rings that led up into his ears. I fully blame you for this. You messed me up. Naruto spoke with clear annoyance. I regret this more than you. Kurama said with his face showing that he realized this was his fault. Naruto had been attempting to recreate the Hiraishin, since all of the details on it had been lost. He had been using a kunai he had gotten during the war to redo it. He was a genius with seals, and Kurama knew this from experience when Naruto resealed his other half inside of himself, so that they could become one person again. Kurama had been trying to help Naruto figure it out, and had suggested that Naruto do something. But something had broken the barrier between space and time itself. So, 18-year-old Naruto Uzumaki and over 1,000-year-old Kurama had been flung into a sealed dimension that was cut off from their natural dimension. That dimension was so distant that they didn't even know when or where they were. Kurama, sealed inside of Naruto, had actually been affected by the same thing that happened to Naruto. Naruto had been forcefully turned from an 18-year-old and shrunken down to how he was when he was 2 years old with a few changes, like his bandaged up arm. Kurama had been turned back to how he was when he was also 2 years old, barely bigger than a small building. That was the only real change though. Both of their chakras stayed the same potency and size, but their bodies were unable to use those abilities to their maximum potency now. Naruto's body was too small to properly use Kurama's power, and even some of his other abilities were locked away from him, now that he had been shrunk down by such a large degree. Their chakra abilities, jutsu, and chakra control, had stayed much the same, but they couldn't use their more powerful abilities, that took greater strength to use. No, I am pretty sure I regret it more than Naruto stated to Kurama, as he allowed himself to slip back into the real world. His clothes were beaten and ruined, since it was raining at the moment, and he was sitting at the edge of a street nearby a small store. Naruto's stomach was growling, which was making him more irritable than he already was. He had just killed 4 stray dogs that had tried to eat him, and their meat was tainted with rabies, so he couldn't cook them up and eat them in return. Trust me, this is my bad. I shouldn't have asked you to change the seal, and now we don't even have the kunai to retrace our steps. Sorry for ruining your dreams. Kurama spoke, knowing just how much Naruto had lost because of what he did. Naruto sighed in annoyance, and he accepted the apology. I know, and I don't hate you for this. Starting a new life is going to be tough though. Without the formula I can't even begin to recreate it, and how many dimensions did we pass through to get here? Naruto asked Kurama, the one who had actually been paying attention to that little fact. I lost count after several thousand, damn it. Kurama said with even more anger at the situation that the pure-hearted Naruto. He had caused his only friend's dream to end, before it could really start. Naruto wouldn't hate him for it. Naruto could rarely ever find it in himself to hate others, but he hated himself for what he had done. It was like he had betrayed Naruto, even though it was by accident. New world, no sage mode, no tail beast mode, no tail beast sage mode, damn it. My body wouldn't be big enough for my full power, until I'm 18 again. Naruto thought with annoyance. He blinked in surprise when somebody placed their hands underneath his arms and lifted him up. What is your name, little guy? A man asked, with what Naruto would assume was his wife next to him. The man was young, maybe in his early or mid-20s. He wasn't the best looking guy around, but he wasn't bad looking either. He was kind of lanky, possibly around 5'8 to 5'9 in height, the average Japanese man's height. He had short brown hair that spiked out to the left side, and super short bangs. He had brown eyes, and wore glasses. He was casually dressed with a blue shirt and pants. His wife behind him was holding an umbrella, and she was visibly pregnant, like she could give birth any day now. She had darker hair than her husband, and had her long brown hair pulled back into a low ponytail. She was slim everywhere else, but her belly, and was averagely endowed. She had fair skin, and kind hazel eyes, like the kind brown eyes her husband had. Uzumaki Naruto, put me down. Naruto said to the man clearly, surprising them at how well he could speak. His words came out a little rough, thanks to the fact his mouth and throat were smaller again, so his voice was more pitched. The man did put him down. So, where do you live, Naruto-chan? The wife spoke kindly, and Naruto twitched. I have no home, and no parents. Naruto spoke even more clearly, and the two seemed taken aback by that answer. He could tell they thought he was some kind of lost child, but he was not a child. He was lost though, so he was a lost little person, not a lost child. Honey, we need to take him to the police station to see if they can find out where he belongs. The man said to his wife, hopefully low enough so that he could avoid Naruto hearing his words. Sure, but they will tell you what I told you. Naruto informed them neutrally, and he even got up so that he could walk with them towards the police station. You are going to the adoption office right now, and getting paperwork, all of the stuff you need to get. The woman stated clearly to husband, because she was not having a child like Naruto go from the streets to an orphanage. Boys like Naruto never got adopted, because nobody wanted a son that came from the streets. She could see him being taken straight to the orphanage from the police station, dropped off, and then forgotten by everyone. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, and he looked so American in a way. His only Japanese trait was the way that he talked to them, and how fluent he was in the language, and his name. People would want to adopt people who looked Japanese, not somebody who looked foreign. It was sad, but that was how it worked. In the morning, the man asked, as he looked at her stomach. They were about 5 minutes from their house, and there was a lot of paperwork that would need to be filled out. It was worse that the orphanage was about 30 minutes away from them, so it would be more of a hassle to do it her way. Issei needs a brother, because if he's anything like you when he gets bigger, he is going to be a big pervert. The woman told him, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. So the unborn child's name was Issei, good to know, and the man was a pervert. Naruto was always surrounded by perverts. For most of his life he was forced to deal with perverts. This was no surprise to him that he was found by perverts. Hey, you are a pervert too, just not a big one. The man reminded his wife, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Okay, so he was found by 2 perverts. Sheesh, these 2 are oblivious. They haven't even noticed the dead dogs behind you, or maybe they are choosing not to see. Kurama nodded to Naruto, who mentally nodded to the fox. It was so obvious that there were dead dogs behind him, but the couple were more concerned about Naruto than the dogs. Looks like the baby has something in his soul though. Naruto thought to himself. He could sense something dragon-like inside of the soul of the unborn baby. The kid was special, Naruto would give him that, but it was strange at the same time. The power was not properly sealed, but the power didn't harbor any foul feelings towards its holder. The kid is like a Jinchuriki, instead his tailed beast doesn't want to escape or kill him, it seems to favor helping. Lucky kid, he is like you, but he has it better. Kurama stated to Naruto, and he could feel a light amount of jealousy from Naruto. Kurama had been trying to break free of Naruto for 16 years of his life, and between them they had constant struggles for control. They took each other's strength, or hindered each other. It was only in the 17th year that they became true friends. Hey, you are a pervert, I am normal. The wife explained to him, before they both realized that Naruto was staring at them at the pregnant bulge in her form. Let's take him home, and get him bathed, and fed first. The husband said, and he went to pick Naruto up, and Naruto didn't bother stopping him. He was hungry, and if they tried anything he could always kick their asses. He did keep a small amount of physical strength, which was several times greater than a normal human strength even at his age. He could jump to the top of the nearest building without straining his body. Looks like you are getting that family you've always wanted, sorry. Kurama said when he realized that he had been the cause of Naruto losing his original family, and the family he had made for himself over the years. Yeah, he had really messed up big time, and he was in no position to pretend that he didn't do anything wrong. He knew he fucked up, but Naruto was too forgiving for his own good. No harm, you think that this will break me? Fuck no, I'll get over this eventually. Naruto spoke to Kurama only. There was no reason for him to be some angst-filled teen. He had been through too much in life to let something like this break him. He was saddened by his loss, but at the same time he looked to the future. He could only wonder what the future held. Big bro, play with. That was the shout of Naruto's younger brother via adoption, who wasn't informed that Naruto was adopted. Issei Hyoto, a young boy who was very obsessed with some strange things for his age. He liked a television show about grown muscle men beating on each other for one thing, and he had a complete and utter fascination with the female body. Not just the body, but one area on the body to be exact. The chest. He was a young boy who greatly resembled their father, with a little of their mother mixed in. He had longer hair, but the same style as their father, but he had their mother's eyes. He also had a mixture of their facial features, something that still made him on the average side. Not handsome, but not ugly, the average guy. He could be good looking, if he bothered to apply himself to anything other than boobs. He had recently turned 8 years old, while Naruto had become 10 years old once more. Fucking great, as if puberty wasn't horrible. Actually, Naruto didn't have a bad puberty. No zits, no voice cracking, no lanky phase. He kind of had a very easy puberty without any troubles. Of course, he did have to deal with terrorist groups after his life. My bad. Kurama apologized, but unlike Naruto, Kurama had once more regained his full size again. 8 years was more than enough time for Kurama to gather chakra and restore himself. He was a chakra monster, so with enough chakra he could return himself to normal with no problems. Naruto was flesh and blood, not chakra flesh and blood, so he couldn't do the same. Maybe later, kiddo. Naruto said, as he flicked his sei in the forehead and laid back, reading a magazine in his bed. He couldn't train himself, since this world didn't really see supernatural little boys shooting huge destructive world-ending techniques, so yeah, he was pretty much stuck wasting time and catching up on this world's history. You always say maybe later come. Issei complained. Naruto never wanted to play, or when he did play it was no fun. Naruto always found him super fast in hide and seek, and he couldn't catch Naruto in tag like ever. Maybe take a martial arts class, and I will play with you. Naruto commented to Issei. The boy had potential, but he had no reason to use it in his eyes. Issei was a pervert, so without perverted motivation he didn't do much. Naruto found out long ago that Issei had zero interest in fighting. He had no desire to get stronger, no reason to get stronger, and was lazy as fuck. He didn't want to get stronger, and he didn't have the drive to do it. Well, he was 8, so it was underweight. Naruto was 5 when he started training his ass off with workouts that would make even grown men gasp. Sheesh, this world and his were way different. I don't like getting hit, Issei complained. He tried martial arts once, and when he got hit in the face he started to cry. He was a little kid, and what little kid liked to lose and get hit at the same time? Find Rina then, I'm sure you two will play whatever you usually play, video games or something. Naruto told Issei. That was another thing he loved, video games. Naruto had no interest in them. He was a strictly physical person and liked getting active. If he found a good book, he would sit down and read it, but only if he really liked the book. Reading for fun was only fun if the book was really awesome. Like the magazine he was reading. Irina is busy with her old man. Issei complained, and their mother popped her head in Naruto's room with a smile on her face. She had not aged much actually. Her breasts had returned to their normal size, considering they were no longer swollen from breastfeeding or pregnancy. She didn't have any wrinkles yet, so there was that. Naruto, can you come help me move the couch? She asked with a pleasant tone. Need physical labor done, call on Naruto. The one thing that was hard to hide was his unnatural superhuman strength for his age. His body was simply too toned for him to hide, and he would sometimes slip and do something weird. It had gotten bad enough that they had taken him to the doctor to see if something was wrong with him. Nothing was wrong, obviously, but they had just figured that he was born with freaky strength. Sure, Mom. Naruto said, as he tossed his magazine, before he picked up Issei and carried him out of his room. Naruto didn't allow Issei in his room when he wasn't there, and for good reason. Issei would hide his stash in Naruto's room sometimes. It was a pain to listen to Issei trying to sneak in and get his stuff, so Naruto prevented him from putting it there. Naruto jumped down the stairs before setting Issei down. He went over to the couch and put his hands underneath it, their father sitting on top of it, before he lifted up the entire thing, so that their mother could vacuum underneath it. She was a housewife, she stayed at home all the time. She did chores, did the cooking and cleaning, and she took care of Issei. Naruto was a bit more able to take care of himself. Okay, he could fully take care of himself if he wanted to. He did it before, he could do it again. Thanks, sweetie, nice to have my strong little man to help me out, she said, as she pinched his cheeks, and he placed down on the couch. Their father looked up for a moment. He was reading a newspaper, and just now noticed that he had been lifted up into the air. This was part of the reason Issei didn't do martial arts, because he didn't want to be compared to Naruto. He didn't want to be put on the wall next to Naruto. The wall, a collection of awards and other trophies that had been won by the children of the house over the years. Naruto, of course, had been winning awards for the hell of it for the last 8 years. They were all placed on the wall, a trophy case to house the achievements of the family. 24 martial arts awards, trophies for soccer, baseball, dodgeball, golf, yes, even golf, spelling competitions, unfair, since Naruto was much older than he looked, and many other blue ribbons and trophies. The entire trophy case was filled with Naruto's achievements. Not that they are achievements, martial arts, boring, look at me, martial arts instructor at the academy, and only human users of the frog kata, reduced to beating on kids. Naruto thought with a twitching eye. He wasn't going to be getting stronger from that, which was a shame. He would have to do with just reaching his old strength level, instead of growing stronger. He had nothing to test himself against, young body or not. Humans in this world were weak. What are we having for dinner, Mom? Naruto asked with an amused tone. She was a great cook, and it was nice to have home-cooked meals. He really did enjoy having her as a parent figure, because both of the parents were loving. Though, they could be a bit more supportive of Issei. Of course, they loved Issei just as much as Naruto, but after 8 years of Issei being alive, he had not raised their expectations of him. It was kind of Issei's fault that they believed he would grow up a pervert obsessed with breasts. He was already just that, but his obsession was still growing. It had yet to peak. Oh, cheesecake. Issei suggested his favorite food, and everyone looked at him. Dinner, not dessert, the mother of the house stated to her second son, since they were supposed to be eating more healthy for dinner. That, and she didn't know if she had anything to make cheesecake with. Red bean soup would be nice. Naruto commented. It was one of his two favorite foods. He enjoyed ramen and red bean soup almost to the same level. Oh, that does sound nice, but we need meat too, and some kind of side, so steamed veggies and grilled chicken. Their father suggested in thought. Grilled chicken sounded good. Even if Naruto wasn't the biggest fan of veggies, he would still eat them. Inside of his small body was the brain of an adult who was mature enough to force himself to eat something he disliked. Veggies. Issei groaned out before he was hit in the head with a wooden spoon. No throwing fits, young man. You will eat your veggies, or you will sit there all night until you do eat them. Mrs. Hyodo reminded Issei with a twitching eye. There was no wasting food in their house, not when they had a big eater like Naruto. They had one working parent and 4 mouths to feed. They couldn't afford to waste food so easily. I was gonna eat him. Issei shouted as he held his head, and Naruto laughed at him silently. This family was right. Hey Naruto, you seem to be having some fun. Are you going to let me switch over tonight, or do you want to dream normally? Kurama asked Naruto. Naruto would sometimes allow Kurama to control his body when he slept, but that led to Naruto not dreaming when he did that. So he didn't do it all the time. Meh, maybe we'll see later. I feel sorry for the dragon in Issei. He knows what that thing is going to see when he hits puberty. Naruto thought, since he doubted that Issei, and whatever was inside of him, would have the same relationship he and Kurama had. Naruto did not say they would have a bad relationship, just that it wouldn't be the same. Kurama had no gender, and didn't give a shit what Naruto did to his body. Kurama could fall asleep whenever he wanted to, so when Naruto wanted private time there was no harm. Issei's sealed creature was located in his left arm. That means that if Issei happened to be a lefty, he was going to be shaming that creature so bad. That will be hilarious. Kurama spoke with a darker grin. Nothing made him happier than thinking about misfortune cast upon others. I know, right? Naruto thought, as he sat down on the couch and looked to see that the television was turned to show a high school. Naruto didn't pay too much attention to it though. School was easy for him. It was easy to learn stuff when you had clones to learn it for you and then transfer the memories back to your brain. He didn't study for himself and he didn't do his own homework. That was all clones that did it for him. Fuck, sometimes he would just send a clone to school if he didn't feel like going. I'll set the table. Issei offered, and immediately everyone was on edge. Issei never offered to help out. Like any child, he was told to do stuff. He only did stuff when he was either covering for himself or wanted something. What did you do? Mr. Hyodo asked Issei with a twitching eyebrow, wondering what his son had done this time. Nothing, I was just wondering about, allowance stuff. Issei said awkwardly, and everyone seemed to get it. Naruto got an allowance, though he never used any of it for anything, but Issei didn't do chores, so he never really got an allowance. It was just one of those things. He hadn't really had a reason to want money until recently. Sure, Issei, help me set the table, and then take out the trash. Mrs. Hyodo said, and that was just the start of what Issei would have to do. He had no idea what he had walked into, but hey, Naruto wouldn't warn him. Naruto smirked to himself before he stood up and started to walk up to his room. This new life wasn't so bad. Hey Naruto, can you go wake Issei up? Ms. Hyodo asked her eldest son as she stuck her head out of the kitchen. It had been a few more years, and she was so proud of everything her son had achieved. Her eldest son, Naruto, had grown into quite the lady killer of a man. At 17 years old, he stood at the same height as her husband and was still going to continue growing to a higher height. He grew more muscular than either his brother or father, as well, something that she would explain to the genetics of his real parents. Well, he had always been muscular, so she didn't notice that too much, though it was a lean muscle. Sure thing, let me know if my friends come over. Naruto commented as he stood up from the couch. His father had already left for work, and he would be leaving for school pretty soon. This would be his last year of high school. He was only a few months away from graduating actually. Then he would be off to college with a free ride for his many sports that he did. Oh, you mean your girlfriends? Ms. Hyodo teased him. Everyone knew that Naruto seemed to make friends with girls so much easier than with guys. He had only a single guy friend in this world. I have a guy friend named Tear. Naruto mumbled as he walked up the stairs and went towards Issei's room. I don't see Tear trying to seduce you. Ms. Hyodo loudly proclaimed to him, and it was true. She was proud of her son, because so many women were trying to get with him. With Naruto, she wouldn't have to wait much longer until she got herself a grandchild. She wanted to be a grandmother already, and see the little pitter-patter of feet running and playing around, but without the responsibility of being a parent to said child. Girls coming onto you 24/7 isn't a good thing either. Naruto complained in his mind as he opened the door to Issei's room. Issei was jerking off, and he looked horrified when he saw Naruto standing there with his eyes suddenly going blank, no emotion at all. This isn't what it looks like. Issei shouted as he moved to cover himself with a pillow, and Naruto sighed and palmed his face. Damn it, Issei, stop playing with yourself in the morning and get a girlfriend already. You are 15 freaking years old. Better yet, if you do have to play with yourself, do it when you are home alone, no, and use your right hand. Naruto said with amusement at the end. He wasn't that bothered by seeing Issei rubbing one out. If anything, Issei was the one that had more to be embarrassed of. Though, it would be better if he used his right hand, because right now he was using the hand that had the creature sealed inside of it. Poor creature, being used to rub down a dick. If I could get a girlfriend, I wouldn't have to play with myself. Issei shouted out as Naruto walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. Naruto walked down the stairs, and he passed by his mother. He was playing with himself again. I swear, that boy will never give me grandchildren, Mizuyoto said, as she rubbed the bridge of her nose. She was slightly disappointed in how Issei was turning out to be. He was a super pervert, obsessed with pornography and breasts to the point of addiction. His dream was to be a harem king, which was something that was making him less popular with the ladies. Give him time to mature some more, I'm sure he'll become a fine man one day. Naruto complimented Issei. Sure, he didn't have high hopes for the boy either, but Issei did have some strong convictions that held that despite his budding sex addiction and virgin status weird combo, he was a good guy. You're the only one that believes in him, sadly, Mizuyoto said, as she walked back down the stairs. That was the sad part of the thing, even though she had lost hope for him. He thought with his dick, so how could he actually make the correct choices in life? Oh Naruto, come and see what the cook is cooking. A voice called from the kitchen. It was a seductive female voice, with a ton of emotion in it. Naruto looked at his mother with full eyes, and she playfully smacked the side of her own head, and winked at him. Oh dearest me, I forgot to tell you Chizuru stopped by, why don't we see what she wants? Mizuyoto spoke, as she feigned innocence in the situation. She had been expecting Chizuru to come, so she had allowed the girl to use one of her aprons. Naruto raised an eyebrow, as they went towards the kitchen. You have no shame, Naruto said to his mother, as he opened up the door. There she was, Chizuru Minamoto, without a doubt a true beauty given form. She had long black hair that was currently done up in a ponytail with a pink ribbon. She had an insect-like antenna of hair sticking up and curving, with longer hair at the side of her head. She had pale white skin and very soft features. A thin frame, though not without seductive meat, as she called it. She had whiter hips, and she didn't have much in the way of muscle tone, only a little of it. She had huge breasts that were easily bigger than a human head. She was currently wearing only an apron over her body, but her nipples were hard enough to stick out even with the white apron on. The apron barely came down over her crotch, which Naruto knew from experience seeing to be hairless. The girl shaved her crotch well, not even the slightest amount of hair. That is, she was naturally hairless. She looked at him with expressive purple eyes. Oh my, it looks like we have company. Why don't I leave you two alone in the kitchen? The best place to make babies. Be sure to do it by the book, Mizuyoto said, as she rushed out of the room and closed the door. Of course, that didn't mean anything since there was an open space in the wall that allowed for people in the living room to look into the kitchen. The top of her head peeked out, and she was watching what was happening. Respect your parents' wishes, Naruto, Chizuru said in a seductive tone once more, and she leaned in to give him a kiss at first. She ended up changing what she was going to do halfway, and pushed her breasts together to give him an excellent view of her massive cleavage, pink nipples beginning to peek out. Naruto didn't even turn red. For 3 years he had been dealing with the advances of this exact girl. Sometimes he would indulge her, and do some naughty stuff, without any real penetration or him needing to get naked. He had learned this girl was interested in masochism. Good, his mother said from her hiding spot, which wasn't well hidden. Naruto grabbed the toast sticking out of the toaster, before he put it in his mouth, and smacked her ass. Such a bold move, Chizuru said with a moan, and Naruto rolled his eyes. She liked getting her ass spanked by him. We are going to get Nozomu, and then we are going to school. I told you before, you want sex, you got to get along with Nozomu, and ask her. Naruto told the girl. He liked Nozomu, the girls were much better. She was fine with just being close to him. She would try to seduce him a lot too, but she didn't make her sole purpose as seduction. Of course, Chizuru Minamoto and Nozomu Izumori did not get along for some very prominent reasons. Chizuru was a 400-year-old fox spirit, a kitsune, and Nozomu was a 200-year-old female wolf spirit. You would think he, of all people, would be attracted to a fox girl. Well, he was, but Nozomu was more his type. Sure, he liked the huge breasts that Chizuru had, but her attitude could grate on his nerves when he was with her alone. He liked her well enough, but she could be a bit selfish. Why do we have to get her? Can't we just skip school and stay here, making your mother grandchildren? Chizuru asked with a pout, and Naruto flicked her in the forehead. Chizuru took off the apron, showing that she was butt naked underneath it. Naruto didn't turn around because he was embarrassed, he just didn't want to show her his body's natural reaction to her nudity. She was a hot, naked, and once more naked girl who wasn't hiding a thing. Of course he was going to get rock hard. Hurry up before Issei comes downstairs. That boy has turned playing with himself into an art. He won't take much longer. Naruto said, as he walked out of the kitchen. He looked at his mother, down, and pouted at him. She really wanted him to follow the book and have sex in the kitchen. She wanted her grandchild to be conceived in the same place that Issei was conceived, which was also what Naruto wanted to avoid. He didn't want his own child to become like Issei, even if he liked his brother. Wait up, Chizuru shouted, as she slammed into his back, fully dressed in her uniform. Naruto stood strong, and continued walking, while she walked next to him with a smile on her face. Then hurry up. Naruto told her with a small smirk on his face. She was hanging onto his arm like nobody's business, pushing her up against it. He had longer legs than her, and she did need to lose a little bit of waist. She was slim, but that was because of genetics. She wasn't really all that in shape, as it would be called. You mean today, did something happen? Chizuru asked, as she reached up and poked his nose. I walked in on my brother playing with himself. My mood is a little ruined, and no, seeing you playing with yourself doesn't cancel it out. It doesn't work that way. Naruto said before she could even start. He knew her, and if she was allowed to, she would put up a barrier around them and jump his bones right here and now. Gross, doesn't he have sacred gear in his arm? So, isn't he putting that poor thing through mental abuse? Chizuru asked, and Naruto heard a hum come from his mind. Remind me later to thank you for, despite being a pervert, not playing with yourself to the point of obsession. Of course, I don't care what you do with your body. Kurama said for a few moments, before he slipped right back into sleep. Kurama had regained his full size, and they had learned something. They didn't de-age, as they had thought. Naruto's physical abilities had been decreased through the process of shrinking his body, and in time his physical abilities were returning. He wasn't growing older, he was simply regaining his abilities, and his old body. He could sit and do nothing, or even train his ass off, and he would only be as strong as he was when he lost his abilities. He didn't need to train, and training wouldn't do anything. So, in another year he would be back to normal. He was already at the strength he had been when he ended the war, which was more than enough to take down nearly anything this world had to offer. He was going to enjoy a nice, normal life, and start a family of his own, instead of worrying about everything that could go wrong. If stuff happened, he would take care of it when it did. He looks at Issei. Naruto said, as he pushed Chizuru into the water playfully, and she landed in the water butt first. She laughed with him, as she stood back up, and pushed him back. She liked how Naruto flirted with her, using her enjoyment of getting picked on, and her pain fetish. It would be better if he spanked her, but pushing her down onto the ground was nice too. It was nicer that she landed on her butt. I shouldn't have shown you that, Chizuru said, regretting informing Naruto of some popular internet trends. Well, you did deal with it, Naruto said, as they started to walk in silence. Naruto knew that Chizuru was what she was. She informed him the day that they met. Yokai were attracted by his powerful life force like moths to the flame. She had willingly spilled her secret, though he never had reason to tell her his secret. He wanted to keep it secret, as she found out he would spill the beans, but until then he had no reason to. They came across a very fancy apartment complex, and they pressed a button. The doorman on the other side recognized them right away, and opened the now unlocked door without asking who they were. They walked straight up to the elevator, before they pressed the highest number. Nozomu lived in a penthouse apartment, all alone by choice. Da 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 do do da. Chizuru sang along with the music playing, and the doors opened a few minutes later. They had a lot of floors up they had to travel. They walked down the hall, before they stopped in front of a room. Naruto took a key out of his pocket, before he unlocked the door, and walked in. Nozomu was exactly where he expected her to be. She was naked on the floor with only a blanket covering her. She was curled up like a dog, and the entire apartment was empty. There was a fridge, but everything else was just empty space. So much like a puppy, it's hard to believe she is over 200 years old, Naruto thought, as he bent down on the ground and rubbed his hand over her butt, and he scratched at the base of her spine. The short wolf tail popped out from underneath the blanket and started to wag, and a yawn could be heard. She has such a nice place. Why she doesn't spruce it up is something I will never understand, Chizuru mumbled, as Nozomu moved out from underneath the cover. She was a shorter girl, what people would call a loli. Naruto honestly didn't understand it too well. She was short and petite. It wasn't like she was a little kid. She had short gray hair done up a feminine short style. She had the same shade of blue eyes that Naruto had, though her eyes were less filled with emotion. She had rounded cheeks, but a more angled face. She was petite, with a pear-shaped body. She was thinner on top with very small breasts, but she still had them. She had a wider hips though, with a nicely developed butt with nice long legs, despite her short stature. She was butt-ass naked. Morning, Nozomu, Naruto said, as he put the blanket back over her body, as she rubbed the sleep out of her eyes. Morning, Naruto, fatty pig. Nozomu greeted them in a softer voice, showing her dislike for Chizuru. The girls just did not get along that well. Well, it was normal. They liked the same guy after all, and most girls, even yokai ones, didn't really like the idea of sharing their man. I am not a fact. This is sexy meat. Chizuru shouted out, as she jiggled her breasts to prove a point, and Nozomu sniffed the air. She moved towards Naruto, who could see where this was going. They had the same arguments every day. "Oh well, get dressed Nozomu, we have school," Naruto said to her, and her clothes were scattered on the ground. She went right to them, and slipped them off, but she left the buttons for Naruto to take care of. Naruto smiled, as he buttoned up her shirt and jacket. Nozomu took out a band-aid, before she lifted up her skirt, and prepared to stick it on her crotch. "Oh my god, get real panties you slutty wolf," Chizuru said, and Nozomu nodded her head, and went towards a pair of green panties on the floor. It was a thong. "I will save my swimsuit for later," the girl whispered, and Naruto snorted to himself. This was his life now, surrounded by perverts. Some things never change. Issei chuckled perversely when he looked at all of the extremely attractive women around him. It had been almost 2 years since he had started high school, though he was about a year older than others in his year, and currently he was dressed in a black ceremonial kimono. It was a big day today, but not for him, as it were, instead of a big day for Naruto. Something that made Issei happy to see Naruto so happy. "My baby. They grow up like this," his mother cried, as she sobbed onto a napkin. Soon she would have to reapply her makeup, with how much she was crying out of happiness and sadness both. Like Issei, she was extremely happy for Naruto. Today was a huge day for him that they would be able to sit through. "This is a happy day," Issei, and Naruto's father said, as he hugged his wife, though the tears in his eyes were plain for all to see. He just didn't have makeup that would run if he cried. Issei wasn't about to cry, he was just purely happy for Naruto today. The ceremony was not a huge one, and most of the girls that were there had been Naruto's friends from high school, who had gone to the same college as him. "Man, this is a nice wedding," Issei said when he looked along the tables, though people had yet to sit down. There were 2 tables, the one for friends, and the one for family. It was a mixture between a traditional Shinto wedding, and the wedding style that was practiced in other countries. Ms. Hyodo howled out, since today was the day she was letting go of Naruto, who had kept his own last name. "Way to go Issei, way to make your mother cry. You know the W word is forbidden today," Mr. Hyodo said with a twitching eye. He was trying to get her to stop crying, not make her cry harder than ever. "Think of the grandchildren's mom," Issei said to his mother, and she stopped crying right away, and smiled widely. That was right, when Naruto got married, there was bound to be a lot of sex, meaning she would be getting her grandchild very soon. Better yet, Naruto would have to invite his wife to live with him, since she had been insisting that he save up some good money before moving out. Issei sent his dad a smirk, and Mr. Hyodo twitched at how Issei had calmed his mother down so quickly. "Oh, that lucky boy is getting a nice little waiga," Mr. Hyodo grunted when his wife punched him in the ribs. She was still a nice little wife herself, even if she was in her 40s, she still had the body of a woman in her later 30s. Not much of a difference, but she took care of herself well. "Let's go sit down, they are about to come out," Issei said awkwardly, as he motioned towards the seats closest to the marriage table. The marriage table was simple, it had 3 cups of sake sitting at the ready, and a bouquet of flowers sitting there. There was also a cake, but that would be for much later. Naruto wasn't the type of person to wait. When he found the girl he loved, he would marry her, as soon as possible. Issei nearly cried tears of pride when he saw the girls that were talking about mistress positions. His brother had his own harem of total babes, though some of them were more cute than sexy. The sexiest girl sitting at the guest table was a pouting Chizuru, arms crossed. Issei could see why she would be a mistress, and not a wife. She was too into sex to be a wife. Sex was the only thing she really had interest in, always horny all the time didn't a good make. The door opened up, and Naruto walked in with Nozomu holding onto his arm, the height difference between them being pretty large. Naruto now stood at a proud height of 6 feet tall, making him without a doubt the tallest person in the room. He stood a fair amount above Issei, and even their father, and a large amount taller than their mother. He was dressed in a black kimono with a red haori with black flames on it. He had grey hakama pants on, and in his right hand was a ceremonial dagger. Naruto had wanted to cut his hair short, but at everyone's begging he didn't do it. Instead he grew his hair out a little, so that it just barely covered his eyes. His wife-to-be on the other hand stood at a height of 4 feet and 6 inches tall, being a large amount shorter than him. Little boobies are cute too, I guess, Issei thought, as he looked at her. She was wearing a traditional Christian white dress, unlike Naruto with his traditional Shinto garb. Issei slapped himself, because he did have limits on who he would perv on. His future sister-in-law was not on the list of women he could stare at. "Look at my baby, so handsome," Ms. Hyodo thought, as she rubbed tears in her eyes. The sadness was fading away, to be replaced by pure happiness. "Such a tight, sexy little body, you scored me a great daughter, son," Mr. Hyodo thought with a nod of pride. This was a happy day indeed, and it would mean a lot if Naruto had a little less shame, and the sounds of moans filled the house tonight. He sure wouldn't object to it, or even tell them to quiet down. He was a pervert, through and through. The couple stopped in front of the table, before they reached out, and both signed a piece of paper. It was the legal documents that said they were married, before they both took a sake cup each, and took a sip from them. Then they shared each other's sake cups, Nozomu having a harder time reaching up to let Naruto drink from her cup, and then Naruto lifted up the third cup and let her drink from it before he drank from it as well. Mom Dad Naruto called out to them with a soft smile on his face. It was their turn to come up and drink from the cups. They both stood up, and Nozomu took a cup up, and she reached out to allow her mother-in-law to drink from it, before she allowed her father-in-law to do the same. She did this with 2 more cups. She had no parents to drink from the cups, so the tradition was sort of incomplete, but not enough to invalidate it. "I'm so proud of you," Mizuoto said, as she kissed Naruto on the cheek, and she said it low enough so that only those close by could hear her. "Thanks Mom, these are for you too. Thank you for letting me be your son," Naruto told them with a wide smile. It had been a nice 17 years for him. It was like he got the chance to have a nice, proper childhood, without the threat of world-ending danger. He had gotten to age 19, a year older than what he had been when he came here, and now he was getting married to a nice girl he loved. Not to mention he had 3 mistresses that Nozomu allowed to be, as part of his harem, as it would be called. Under one condition, Naruto married none of them, only she would be the wife. "Hello mother father. I am Nozomu Uzumaki, please take care of me," Nozomu said with a bow. Tears were shed by both parents. Pride, joy, and overflowing love were just a few of the things that they were feeling. Mizuoto held onto the flowers in her hands with a smile, but she still opened her arms and wrapped them around the newlywed couple. "Come on up Issei," Naruto said, as he gestured for Issei to stand and come over to them, and he did. He was smiling as he walked towards his brother and his new sister. "Congrats big bro, I'm happy for you," Issei said, and Naruto hugged his brother close to him. Issei was surprised by the hug, before his face softened, and he hugged Naruto right back, though not capable of doing it as tightly. "Thanks Issei, I'm happy you could be here for this. I love you a lot little bro," Naruto said genuinely, and Issei smiled, and they stopped the hug. "I love you too, though I guess now you need to start loving her," Issei said with a suggestive tone, and Naruto nodded his head. Nozomu came up to Issei, before she gave him a small hug, as well that surprised the boy. Of course, she let go before he could hug her back. "You stink," Nozomu said bluntly, and Issei's sweat dropped at how she said that so bluntly. It was weird, but it was kind of charming how she said it without planning on being mean. He simply smelled like he masturbated too much. "Now it is your turn to sit down, and let us do our parts," Mizuoto said, as the newlywed couple sat down at their places. Mizuoto took the microphone first, before she stood in front of Naruto and Nozomu. "Naruto, the day you came into our lives is a day I will never forget. You made us parents, and helped us with Issei. You have always made us so proud of everything you do, and how you are always so filled with happiness. Nozomu, you make my boy happy, so welcome to the family," Mizuoto said with a wide, happy smile on her face. "Naruto, I could say a lot about you, but all I have to say adds up to this. I'm proud of you, and if you are ever in trouble just come to us," Mr. Hyoto said, as he gave Naruto a firm pat on the shoulder, and finally it was Issei's turn to say something. He froze for a moment, before he took a calming breath. "Big bro, you are always 1,000 steps ahead of me. I will always feel like I'm standing in your shadow, so much that I don't even want to try to get out of it. You're athletic, popular, good with girls, and now you are getting married, but you know what, even with all of that I am happy to have you, as my brother. Nozomu, I don't know you that well, but I will never forgive you if you hurt my brother, but that isn't what I want to tell you. I just want you and Naruto to be happy together," Issei said, and he offered them both a polite bow. He meant it. Ever since he was born he was always compared to Naruto. That was part of the reason why he decided to go to a different high school than the one that Naruto went to, so that nobody could compare them. He was a worthless little brother, and he could never help Naruto because Naruto never needed help. Issei always felt so low when compared to Naruto, but Naruto never rubbed it in his face. He was always a kind older brother, so Issei could only feel love for his big brother. Naruto was everything he couldn't be, but that didn't matter much to him. Nobody expected anything of him, so people were amazed when he did anything right. "Everyone, Nozomu and I are going to cut the cake. If you want some, just let us know," Naruto said, as he and Nozomu stood up and moved towards the cake. Working together, they put out a piece of cake. Nozomu used a fork and started to try and feed Naruto, and he did the same with her. They both gained glints in their eyes, as they shoved handfuls of cake into each other's faces, before the forks could even reach. Why is this a cake-eating tradition? Nozomu couldn't help but think, as she liked the cake off her face. Naruto was laughing a little, enjoying the resounding laughter that could be heard from around the room. He and Nozomu moved closer. Before they pressed their cake-covered faces together, Naruto had to lean down very low and kissed each other. The crowd loved it, and soon people started to get served their own pieces of cake. Soon, everything was over, and they started to walk down the middle of the crowd to leave. They had a honeymoon that they needed to get to. Nozomu wasn't even upset by the fact her brother didn't show up. He was the kind of guy that only showed up if he had a problem with it. Since he didn't show up, he had no problems with her getting married. The car waiting to take them to the airport had a driver that opened the door for them, and they stared out and saw everyone waving them off as they went. This was going to be a nice honeymoon. I would rather be mating with you right now. We are in Hawaii right now. If we were just going to spend our entire honeymoon having sex, we could have done that back home. Naruto's casual response to Nozomu's blunt statement didn't even raise any eyebrows from the natives of Hawaii around them. Of course, there were different things they were concerned with anyway. Since they were currently on the beach, Naruto and Nozomu were wearing their swimsuits. Now what Naruto wore as a swimsuit was normal. Nozomu liked when he wore a speedo, so he wore one for her. It was revealing, but very much normal for an athletic man like himself to wear. Nozomu wore bandages. She wore tiny band-aids over her nipples to cover her rather small nipples, and she had a larger band-aid over her hairless crotch that did fully cover her downstairs. In this aspect, neither her vagina or nipples were being exposed, but the fact remains that the vast majority of her body was on full display. Is my lean body arousing you? So turned on right now, I might have to drink myself into a coma just to come to terms with how sexy my wife is. Naruto then proceeded to drink who knows what kind of alcoholic drink out of a coconut through a straw. He was very much sexually attracted to his wife, but he was also very used to her coming on to him like this. She wasn't like Chizuru, who only ever had sex on the mind. He could hold a conversation with Nozomu, kind of why he married her, and not one of the other 3 girls who always pined for his affections. The fact this was just how she was the only reason that he didn't mind her current swimsuit in public. If Nozomu had her way, she would just be butt naked right now. The girl was so comfortable with nudity that she could be butt naked in the middle of a busy place and still not give a single fuck about it. She had a sense of decency though, and knew not to be naked in public most of the time, so she wore clothes. On a beach, she liked to feel the sun on her body, bathing her in warm rays, so she wore as little as possible. This is tasty. Nozomu stole his drink and started to drink out of it. She even nibbled the meat of the coconut when she finished the drink. Now, most people wouldn't let somebody her age or size drink. Naruto didn't care though, partially because she was over 200 years old, well within legal drinking ages, and mostly because it wasn't like anyone was going to take advantage of her in a drunken state. Anyone, but him that is. If you pass out, I'm totally doing stuff to you in your sleep. Naruto told her with a grin on his face, and she just grabbed her own drink and started to chug it. She welcomed that statement. Do me in the butt if you do. I want to be awake when you breed me. Nozomu just gave him that one rule. When she conceived his child, she wanted to be awake so that she could remember the moment. If he was going to molest her in her sleep, then she would prefer that he do her in the butt. I want lots of kids. Nozomu told him with a bright smile when she realized that now that they were married, he could give her all of the children that she wanted to have. Naruto could imagine his mother agreeing to what Nozomu was saying very easily, and he could imagine that his father would be happy to know how active they were. Bet Chizuru will fight you for that one. Naruto admitted, and Nozomu groaned in annoyance. Fatty pig. You two seriously need to get along better. It was you two that agreed to share in the first place. I was fine with just one girl, you know. I'm not a say, I don't really care about stuff like harems. Naruto stated, as he grabbed a book from the towel next to them. Nozomu got off of her towel, and rolled over onto his towel. She rolled on top of him with difficulty. They had a very large body difference, before she stopped when her butt was on his crotch. She liked reading with him. He always picked interesting books, and she didn't even like to read normally. He always found the fun books that seemed to have deep hidden meanings, and lots of actions, adventure, and even romance in them. What are you reading? Nozomu asked, since the book wasn't in Japanese or even English. The Romance of 3 Kingdoms. When I bought it online, I didn't realize it was the Chinese version, though, so I started studying Chinese, not a hard language to learn. A lot easier than English for sure. Naruto commented, as he opened the book up to the first page. Nozomu looked at all of the Chinese characters, and her eyes instantly dulled, becoming bored with the book that she was now unable to read. One would think a 200-year-old wolf spirit would know a lot of languages, but nope, she only knew English and Japanese, since English was taught in Japanese schools, and she has gone through the Japanese schooling system close to 10 times now. How do you think mother and father are? Nozomu asked, referring to his parents respectfully, since they were now her family. They haven't called. Nozomu mentioned her reason for her worry. She and her husband had been on vacation in Hawaii for a week now, and they hadn't gotten a call from them. She liked his parents, they were super fun, and both were encouraging them to have children. She liked perverts, she just disliked people who smelled perverted. People with the scent of a beast in heat, Chizuru, or people who smelled like they touched themselves way too much, Issei. Yeah, I guess that is a normal thing to do even after almost 20 years with this family. As their son, I'm still getting used to being somebody's son. Naruto thought to himself. He never really knew what it was like to be a son. When he had become this family's son, he already had the brain of a grown man who had been through war. He had parents who loved him and died for him, so it took some getting used to for him to consider the family he lived with to be his family. I bet they're just giving us some space. Naruto mentioned with a small smile. They were respectful that way. He was more concerned about what trouble Issei was getting himself into. With Issei was laying on the ground, with a large hole in his stomach, blood pooling around him, as he stared up at his own bloody hand. With Naruto, he was most likely fine, more than likely masturbating like nuts though. Naruto blinked for a moment when he realized that a week had gone by already. Their honeymoon was originally just planned for a week. He blinked. Something wrong? Nozomu asked with concern when she saw his shifting face. His face was very expressive and easy for her to read. Oh crap, we need to go to the hotel and pack our stuff like now. Naruto closed his book and sat up, tossing Nozomu off of him. He started to gather up all of his things, and he held onto Nozomu's hand before the two of them started to run towards the hotel. Nozomu didn't run as fast as him, so he had to slow down for her sake. I just realized that we are going to miss our flight home. Naruto shouted out when he realized that he had forgotten something so important. Nozomu blinked a few times. Then her eyes whitened when she realized that if they didn't go home at the right moment, then she wouldn't be able to throw it in Chizuru's face that she had spent an entire week with Naruto by herself. Was gloating the right thing to do, and was it the best way to make friends with somebody? No, but she enjoyed making the flabby fox jealous of her. We lost track of time. Wait, can't you fly? Nozomu asked Naruto, as she glanced at him with a tilted head. I'm stupid, I graduated college, and I'm still stupid. Naruto lifted Nozomu into his arms, and transformed slightly. His eyes turned yellow, and he gained crossed pupils. He entered his basic six-path sage mode, without the cloak, and started to fly in the air with Nozomu holding her arms around his neck. He flew towards the hotel, and in less than a second he stopped at the patio of their hotel room, landing on it, and opening up the glass sliding door. Naruto and Nozomu started to gather all of their things, and pack them into their suitcases. Since they did spend money on a flight, they would for sure be using the plane back to Japan unless they missed it. They just weren't in as much of a hurry anymore. I guess I'll get dressed, Nozomu said regretfully, as she started to slip into a very large shirt, Naruto's shirt, and wore it like it was her shirt. The shirt came down to her knees, and was coming off of her shoulder a little, but it covered everything, and made her somewhat decent for public spaces. Naruto was already in trunks, so he simply slipped one of his orange shirts over his chest, and he was ready to go, as well. Smells nice. Nozomu took the time to smell Naruto's shirt. She was freaking adorable, period. Hopefully, we can avoid most of the trouble with airports. Naruto mentioned with a small grin, since it was a flight from Hawaii to Japan, it wouldn't be as populated as other flights might be. Nozomu started to count on her fingers. Ocean, pool, hotel room, beach, but no plane Mile High Club. Nozomu asked with a look towards Naruto. Wolf ears and a wolf tail appeared out from her body, the back of his shirt lifting up to show her butt, as it wagged. They had been doing it a lot on their honeymoon, since they would be moving back into the Hyoto house, until they had enough money saved up to buy their own place. So she wanted to take every chance to have sex that she could before she would face the limitations of his family. Also, honeymoon, that was when you were supposed to have a ton of sex without being interrupted by anyone anyway. At least, that was what her brother told her. I don't think that one is the best idea, not with how loud you get during. Naruto mentioned, as he zipped up their suitcases. He didn't want to disturb the other people on the plane with the sounds of their lovemaking. Tell you what, one day I'll fly us above the clouds, and we can have sex without needing a plane. Naruto promised her, so that she wouldn't feel the need to try and seduce him on the plane. I'm still going to seduce you anyway, because I like seducing you. You knew me too well. Naruto figured that she would guess why he made his promise. Well, they might not be the first people in the Mile High Club, but they would be among the very few to do it without the help of a plane or wings. Nozomu grabbed her suitcase, before she reached up, and got ready to try and kiss Naruto while he leaned over. She stopped when she noticed his stubble. You need to shave, Nozomu told him, deciding not to kiss him. He had stubble on his cheeks and chin, which she didn't really enjoy. She liked kissing him better when she could lick his face. She didn't like the texture that stubble gave his face when she licked it. Also, it just was not sexy to lick hair. She wanted to be sexy and lick him on the flesh, not the hair he grew on his face. Naruto rubbed his chin, and yes, he did feel the stubble that was there. I'll shave when we get home, Naruto mentioned without much care about the issue. He didn't really plan on growing a beard anyway, since it would cover up his whisker marks, so he normally kept himself very well shaved. Let's go check out of the hotel. If we waste too much time we really will be late. Naruto spoke up, looking at the clock on the wall. Nozomu nodded her head. She couldn't wait for when they got back home. Issei had never in his life felt a more primal fear than when he woke up in the morning. For starters, the last time he was awake he was dying of blood loss, so the fact he was awake was a surprise, but the bigger fact was that this was not his room. He could see a poster from the ramen museum in the room that he was currently in, and he could see one of Chizuru's bras on the floor, and Nozomu's panties lying on Naruto's computer. Naruto's computer, and Nozomu's panties. He was in Naruto's room while Naruto was on his honeymoon with Nozomu, and he knew that going into this room without permission was a huge death sentence for him. I'm dead, he's going to kill me. Issei looked to his left and saw a familiar beauty from his school, somebody he had never once talked to before. Somebody that was famous for her kindness and looks amongst the students, even popular among the other female students. She was currently laying butt naked on Naruto's bed, so not only was he naked in Naruto's room, but he had somehow brought a naked girl to Naruto's room, as well. Why were they naked? Judging by the smell of the room, he and the girl, Ryu's Gremory, did not have sex last night. He knew well enough what sex smelled like thanks to his brother and Nozomu. You so much as walked by their room after a night of sex, and you knew it. He also knew the signs of a recently sexed woman thanks to Nozomu and seeing her after Naruto did her. Ryu's was not flushed at the groin or breasts, or even face, and her hair looked too fresh. He did not have sex with this woman. Well, that would be a shame. I wouldn't want your father killing my newest servant, now would I? Dear God, even the way she spoke was sex, as she sat up in Naruto's bed. She didn't bother covering either her crotch, her smooth hairless crotch, or her large luscious breasts. The only thing that provided her any cover was her long red hair. How did my stomach Issei screamed when he realized he should be dead, super dead from the wound he got. Naruto always told me I was too stupid to die. Issei deadpanned when he looked down and saw that he had no wound on his body. Issei hated to admit it, but Naruto had called it. Ryuz was a little surprised. No questions. Ryuz asked Issei, and he covered his own crotch with red cheeks when he saw her looking at him. I have lots of questions, and I hate myself for saying this, but please put some clothes on. If my brother finds us in his room like this, he's going to kill me. Issei begged the girl to put her clothes back on, which he could see laying on the ground. He hated the fact he was telling a woman, a hot one, to put clothes on. If this were his room, then he wouldn't have even bothered. Ryuz raised an eyebrow. Now this is a surprise, seeing how you act at school. I expected you wouldn't be able to keep your eyes off me. You're a known pervert, so when I saw the panties on the floor of this room, I thought it was your room. Ryuz had to admit when she took Issei home and healed his injuries, she had come across this room first. She saw the bra and panties on the floor, computer, and she could see several erotic books on the shelf. She had assumed that this was Issei's room without a second thought. Issei raised his hand up high. I'm totally saving your bodacious boobies into my mental spank bank for future uses, but you don't understand how scary my brother is. Issei shivered when he remembered the last time he pissed off his brother. The last time that happened, well, Issei knew his anus was clean that day. After all, Naruto had shoved 2 bars of soap into his asshole. If you are going to be an asshole, then you better be a clean asshole. His anus still had not recovered since that day. I'll take my chances, but don't worry, I'm still a virgin. We didn't do anything, do you mind if I just call you Issei? Ryuz asked, as she stood up and went to her neatly folded clothes on the chair in the room. Issei was still in shock. This was weird. He had seen a naked girl before, several of them. He had seen Chizuru naked plenty of times when she was trying to seduce Naruto. The woman did not care who saw her naked when she was trying to seduce somebody. Then there was Nozomu, who just did not give 2 shits about who saw her naked, as long as Naruto was one of the people seeing her. He hadn't seen the other 2 girls of Naruto's harem nude, but then again he had never actually really talked to them. One was a teacher, and the other apparently lived in another country most of the time, and she had some kind of temporary deal with Naruto. I don't mind, but what are you doing here, gonna cry? Issei wanted to cry when she put those bountiful breasts back into her bra. She was already in her underwear, and his favorite things were now being covered by a layer of cloth. Some people would say if you've seen one pair of breasts, you've seen them all. Well, Issei would punch that man in the face. A man, in Issei's definition, should want to see all breasts that he could. Well, last night after you summoned me, I brought you back to life, as my cute little pawn. I was really hoping you would be more distracted by my body. I wanted to wait to explain this to you. Ryuz lamented how she couldn't have the nice coming out party for Issei at the school, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. Issei, like a child, raised his hand. I understood nothing of what you said to me. Thankfully, he was dumb so she could tease him a little. Last night, a woman named Rainer killed you. With your dying breath, you summoned me. You see, Issei, I'm not human, I'm a devil, Ryuz stated, and instantly Issei grabbed something off of Naruto's desk and pointed it at her. Instantly, Issei regretted it when the cross he had grabbed burned his hand. He was forced to let go of the cross instantly, and looked in surprise when he saw his burned skin throbbing in pain. Wait, didn't crosses only? I didn't realize you were a Christian, but it seems you realized it. Yes, Issei, I saved your life by turning you into one of my kin. You, Issei Hyodo, are devil now. Ryuz revealed, as she rubbed the bridge of her nose. Him flashing that cross at her had given her a pretty bad headache, though not as badly, as his hands were burned. She hadn't known he was religious. That could be a problem with integrating him into her group. I'm not a Christian, we are a religious family. Apparently, my brother has a Christian friend who gave him a cross. So I'm really a devil, and I really died last night. Issei muttered, as he looked at his own stomach with saddened eyes. Then all of that had been real. Rias nodded. The door opened. It's good to be. So you must be Issei's elder brother. Rias stated when she saw Naruto come into the room, a young woman standing next to him. She could see that Naruto was several years older than she was. She could see him looking between her and Issei, and even in her underwear, she waved politely at him. I'm sorry for intruding, but he's mine. She was interrupted when Izumo hugged Naruto and glared at Rias. She literally growled at the red-haired woman. She had enough trouble sharing with 3 people, she didn't want to be asked to share with even more people. She barely had enough time with Naruto just to herself, as it was, not counting her honeymoon of course. Naruto glanced between Rias and Issei. Naruto walked over to Issei and Rias before he grabbed the 2 of them. Ow, not the ear, Issei shouted when Naruto grabbed him by the ear. Rias yelped when she was grabbed in a similar way, though Naruto got her opposite ear. Naruto started to pull on their ears and pull them out of his room. Come on, I didn't do anything, I swear. Issei complained about his treatment. Ow. Rias had to let out a small whine with each step. This was a new reaction to somebody seeing her nearly naked. No, I just got back from my honeymoon, and I'm not dealing with any of this. Listen, Issei, if you want to hire a prostitute to sleep with you, that is your business, but do not use my room for your weird sex kinks. Naruto lectured his brother even, as he was dragging both him and said prostitute out of his room. Naruto continued to drag them down the hall and down towards Issei's room before Nozomu opened up the door for him. Nozomu Naruto thanked her. With that, he pulled the 2 into Issei's room and let go of their ears. I'm not a prostitute, and now. Rias rubbed the side of her head over her ear when Naruto let go of her. She was offended by what he called her. Yeah, she's. Issei, this girl is clearly out of your league, and you, my dear little brother, are not a ladies' man. You expect me to believe that in a week, you seduced a total babe like this? Naruto gestured to Rias and her body. He had noticed and memorized every curve of her body. He was good at doing stuff like that, and then he gestured to Issei. When you were working with your out-of-shape body and your personality. Naruto asked Issei with a gesture towards his lack of real muscles, and the way he still had a little bit of blood coming from his nose. Issei raised his hand to counter that. Okay, point taken, but my self-esteem has been damaged because of that. Issei pointed out to Naruto, who shrugged. Oh, don't be so dramatic. If something like that could hurt your feelings, then you would have killed yourself years ago. Anyway, Naruto pulled his wallet out of the back of his pants. He had changed into regular clothes at the airport. Naruto opened his wallet before he pulled out a wrapped condom and gave it to Rias. She turned bright red when she saw the size of it. Okay, based on what she saw from Issei, this was simply too large to be the right fit for Issei. I'm really not. Naruto put a finger to her lips. There isn't a point denying it. I already know. Wait, that is my condom I need to get out of the eek. Naruto plucked the condom from her hands, and he opened his side pocket to his wallet and pulled out a second, much smaller condom. The emergency Issei condom, for the day when Naruto knew Issei would go nuts and hire himself a whore to take his urges out on. Since Naruto knew Issei thought solely with his lower head most of the time, he always made sure to keep an emergency condom in his wallet to give to Issei when he looked like he was going to snap. Have fun. Nozomu stated, as she grabbed Naruto by the arm and pulled him out of Issei's room and back towards his room, closing the door behind them. But I'm not a prostitute. Rias pouted when she realized that her reputation was going to be ruined with her pawn's family now. Now they were going to think she was some kind of wanton whore because of this. She didn't want that to be the first impression Issei's family had of her. Actually, this was the first time anyone ever assumed she was a whore. Issei had a heavy blush on his face. That's my brother, Naruto Uzumaki, he might have been messing with you. Issei wasn't sure if Naruto really assumed Rias was a whore or not. He hoped not. With Naruto. Man, girls are turning to prostitution younger and younger. Naruto complained, since that girl couldn't be much older than Issei was. What happened to morals? Naruto asked Nozomu as she lay down on their bed. She smelled it before she covered her nose. This bed doesn't have your scent on it. We need to fix that. Nozomu stated as she pulled up her skirt and showed off her panties to him. Here I am, worried about Issei getting an STD from a hooker, and you want to have sex. Naruto commented dryly, but that didn't stop him from pulling his pants down and getting ready to have sex with her. Boys will be boys, it's better he hire a slut than let his urges fester. Nozomu told Naruto as she pulled her panties down and turned so that she was on her hands and knees. Dogja style was her favorite style. It had nothing to do with her being a 200-year-old wolf spirit. Yes, it did. I know, but I don't want him to make a mistake that will hurt him for the rest of his life. I'm not saying he should wait for marriage, but he should at least wait until he finds a special girl. Naruto couldn't stop his sigh. He just wanted what was best for his brother. Ass or pussy? Naruto asked Nozomu, and she didn't even need to think about it as she spread her cheeks. Ass it was. He would worry about Issei later. The end. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.